Hi, I'm Santa Clara Mayor Lisa Gilmore. Thanks for joining me today for Mayor at Noon series on Facebook Live. This is an opportunity to hear how the city is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's also an opportunity for viewers to ask questions during today's Mayor at Noon. The focus of our show today is the pandemic's impact on the hospitality industry. Joining me today is Enrique Fernandez, Vice President for Immigration, Diversity, and Civil Rights with Unite Here. Unite Here is a labor union that represents 300,000 working people across the United States and Canada. Their members work in the hotel, gaming, food service, manufacturing, textile, distribution, laundry, transportation, and airport industries. They help people of all backgrounds to achieve greater equality and opportunity. Enrique is a native of Uruguay, where he attended college in Montevideo and then moved to San Jose in 1983. He began his tenure in the hospitality industry as a dishwasher and bartender, and over the years, he rose through the ranks of Unite Here to become business manager of Local 19 in Silicon Valley and helped transform Unite Here to be a leader in immigrant and worker rights. He is also the president of Working Partnerships USA and the president of California State Council of Unite Here. He's also a proud father and grandfather of two adorable little grandchildren. So I met Enrique, it was about 25 years ago when we both attended the inaugural Working Partnership class back in 1995. Do you remember, Enrique? And welcome. So nice to see you today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Oh boy, I remember. Time flies when you're having fun. Huh? The reality is that those were amazing classes, and they continued through the years and really opened the door for a lot of us in Silicon Valley in different aspects of industry and public officials to really create a partnership that endured for years. That's why we got such a great relationship with this great city of Santa Clara, too.
Yeah, it was back in 1995 that I was, I think, 3 years into my council term. And it really, I don't know, it was 8 or 12 weeks or something. And it really taught me about the importance of the partnerships between our city government, me as a younger council member, and the community and the workers and businesses, how we all have to work together. So, I think it's been a very successful education process for a lot of people. And I was very fortunate to meet you, especially at a time when Santa Clara was still in the growing stages. And we had an opportunity after that to work together on the Hilton Hotel in Santa Clara. And I know everyone knows where that is. It's on Tasman in Great America, which was one of the first hotels out there, first of many and many opportunities out there. So Enrique, let's talk about how we work together on the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah, that was an amazing opportunity to really show the partnership between an industry, workers, and public officials, because we had the opportunity to be part of a vision of a city. And right now, after the years, and that place is going to change forever with the new site across the 49ers Stadium. But at that time, the Hilton and the partnership that we created, I remember working with pension fund money to finance that hotel because it was tough times at that time in the industry. So that created an anchor for the city. And now that area is going to be amazing in 2-3 years because of that vision, that long-term vision of the public officials at that time, and being able to work together. And that's
the collaboration with the pension fund, because
exactly.
I do remember at the time you couldn't get financing for anything.
Exactly.
So it was tough.
It was tough time for the industry, and we were able to work together, and everybody came ahead, and meaning that there's a beautiful hotel there that might expand now, for what I heard, and will continue being the hotel industry and the restaurant industry and that convention center a great way of creating jobs for the community, and that was the key. I mean, there was tough time for everybody, and now we're living this, but we're going to come out
I
quick.
know, yeah, it was back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where the leaders that were here in Santa Clara created the infrastructure out on the north side in our tourist area, tourist and entertainment area. But it was great to have the theme park and other things. It took a while to get that but that Hilton Hotel was a catalyst. And that was the first time I had an opportunity to work with you and to understand your industry as well in the hospitality industry. So let's talk a little bit about that, because the pandemic has impacted businesses across the nation. But I wanted to talk about the impact on your industry and the hospitality industry. And so why don't you tell me about how your industry is different from others during the pandemic, and what do you see from
Well,
that?
I mean, as everybody knows by now, we have hotels, convention centers, stadiums, parks closed. And our workers, if I had to say it in one sentence, cannot work from home.
Right.
So that by itself is the most biggest difference with any other industry. So that's a huge challenge for everybody.
Right. So, let me see here. You've been advocating for workers for decades. So tell me, I know that you've been involved in other disasters and other type of issues and emergencies that have been a little bit different from the pandemic, but how do you see your industry, how has it been affected from that, and how did it bounce back, and what do you see with this pandemic?
It's very hard to define the impact because it's so big, but I guess it's a mix of 9/11 and Katrina together. That's what we always say.
Yeah, okay.
But because the magnitude is so huge, and I think that it goes over and above our industry. I think that the result of many years of a huge income gap, the lack of health care for the population in general, it created this disaster that we're living today. And the workers and the industries are feeling it. I mean, our union workers have been fortunate, to continue with health coverage. But let's face it, in the immigrant population, women, brown and black workers are the most affected with COVID-19 because years of malnutrition, lack of health care and all that. So it is a tough time, but it's going to end. I know that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because we do have hope for the future at the end of all this.
Yes.
We have our hope. But let's talk about how important all of these workers are to our local economy and our city economy and how they really contribute. And I know that, but I wanted to hear a little bit from you because I think without the workers that we're talking about today, our city would have a difficult time functioning.
Yeah, I always joke around, this with industry, and I think that hotels and our workers are always the face of the industry, the face that welcomes the travelers. And I believe that the hospitality industry is a gold mine for cities because...
I'll tell you how much of gold mine in a minute, too, but go ahead.
Yeah, it is because, the transient tax that we all call TOT is a tax that we force the travelers to pay when they stay in our hotels, and I know that that's a good tax base for every city in California and the country. So, that's something that forces you and the council members to promote that to help the community, because the citizens of Santa Clara don't have to pay that tax, and that's the truth, and that's something that we need to value. And that vision of Santa Clara council members through the years is creating an amazing tax base for the future that's going to help the community. I know that.
Yeah, thank you. I just know between the shutdown of our convention center, no events at Levi Stadium, the hotel rooms being empty, and others have had a profound effect on our city budget. And between sales tax and transient occupancy tax, we've had to have some major cuts. Luckily, we prepared with our reserves, but but it just shows the fragility of, the industry, that we rely on it so much. And I like the point you made that, the workers that are working in these jobs for us are really working for the city, because they're creating this revenue stream into our general fund that's, irreplaceable. And the workers are so valuable to us that, and we'll talk a little bit later about our retention policy and our recall policy, but I think our city council and city councils of the past have valued the workers so much that we need to protect the workers as well, because it's all part of our ecosystem of our city government. So that's why we have found it extremely difficult. Having the workers not being able to come to their jobs has had a profound effect on our city budget. So what do you think it will take for us to get to this new normal, and what's your prediction in terms of timing? And what do you see the industry is doing in the meantime? What are your plans in the meantime to try to get some of the workers back to work?
The ability of us in this city to work together is going to make a difference in the short term and in the long term. And when I say work together, it's with the industry too. I mean, the industry is truly working very hard to create an environment that is safe for the customers to travel and visit our hotels. And at the same time, us as advocates of workers, and we're having a very good response by the industry to create protection for the workers, because it's hard to think that you need to go back to work in an environment that people comes and go. So, I mean, protocols are being created, and I think that we need to continue investment in marketing opportunities and using maybe federal money to create some subsidies for the industry, be that restaurants or hotels, that we can use that money to promote staycations, for example. It's something that is the word of the moment right now, because you don't have people traveling in planes, so most travelers drive. And I think that every person in Santa Clara that has a family is ready to leave.
Well, I'll tell you, I was ready
on
to
the
leave
weekend.
months ago, and we're used to flying around and doing things, not anymore, but just if we could have a staycation anywhere, even down the street is even more convenient and better. We need to get out.
Exactly.
We're social people, we need to get out.
Yeah, I think that we need to keep put our heads together.
Right.
And create that and use that money to market, Santa Clara, some of the hotels, something. Come stay this weekend, and get a one dinner free at this restaurant in Santa Clara. So those are the things that we can do it, and we are working together. And it takes some time, but I'm sure you are working on that, something like that. That's what the industry is working right now. It's just to create that short-term marketing opportunities, and then long term, we all know that we're going to come stronger. I know that. This is a very resilient industry, and Santa Clara is going to go back to what it was before or more.
We're trying to be a little realistic about what's happened in the industry, and I know you mentioned earlier to me, maybe one of the quarters next year, maybe a later quarter or other, but I think that what we found in Santa Clara is people are getting very creative on what they're doing. And you talked about the staycations or maybe food events inside the convention center, or I know Great America's talking about having events inside the hotels, other things. So that helps everybody. It keeps, the workers working, it keeps the money locally. It just helps everyone, thrive in this in the meantime until we can get back to whatever the future's going to look like. But there are so many things happening in Santa Clara that there's an opportunity for.
And I think that we need to work together, with the state government to push for safe openings, and to do it in a progressive way so everybody stays safe. But I think that openings are coming, and I think it's good for everybody, and it's important for our psychological, approach of. Everybody wants to come back to work. Nobody wants to be in unemployment in our industry.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that, about the not just the financial effects, because a lot of the workers are on the lower pay scale, And the financial aspect of this has been just devastating for them. What about mentally? How and psychologically, how you as a leader, how are you dealing with all of the issues with some of your workers and not being able to tell them specifically when they're going to be back to work? And I'm going to give an example. When which we will talk about our recall, our emergency recall ordinance. Just a couple weeks ago at our city council meeting, we had some workers call in, and some were thanking us about the retention policy. We'll talk about that we have. And the recall policy, how important it is for workers to get their jobs back when this is all over. But you could hear the pain and suffering in their voices, and we're doing everything by Zoom, so you can't even see their faces, but just to hear the pain and suffering in the phone calls, I'll tell you, I know there was, there were some eyes that weren't quite dry, people listening to that. So how are you handling it? I could hardly handle a council meeting and listening to the pain.
I think we have an obligation to let it remind everybody there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we are confronting this together. And that's the key. I mean, when you're at home, not being able to go to work, you feel very lonely. But the fact that, I mean, for example, I'm just amazed of the solidarity shown by industry and by cities on trying to cope with the food insecurity. I mean, the Santa Clara has done an amazing job with the elderly, with the school kids. I mean, some of those kids, I mean, those were the main, food for the day. So, I mean, I think that we're, at our union, we're doing 3 or 4 days every week of distribution of food. And the solidarity, the volunteers that are coming and trying to help each other, it's just amazing. So yes, I mean, long term, who knows where we're gonna end it up, but the fact that we are together as a community is what makes a difference. And the leadership of letting people know that it's gonna be a light at the end of the tunnel. And that leadership is coming in Santa Clara by the council, by the industry representatives, definitely not coming from Washington, but that's another story. But let's go ahead and be positive on this conversation, Lisa.
Right. So let's talk about when your workers do go back to work. And because they're so public facing in many of the jobs and many of the situations, and they don't have the luxury of working from home like many people do. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, that's the big difference. What are they going to encounter between them and the customers, and how? What about the confidence of being able to return this type of an industry, the hospitality industry?
Yeah. Going back to the leadership part, I mean, we are fortunate in Santa Clara County that we have health guidelines that embraces all aspects of industries, and also in the hotel industry, we have very good guidelines that being created that we are being enhanced by some of the hotel companies, but the workers, the key will be to first keep the workers safe, so the customer feels safe. So there is a bunch of protocols based on the guidelines of the county that we are all trying to follow and following that will certainly be a way to show the customers come to Santa Clara or Santa Clara County and feel safe, stay in a hotel. Right now, I mean, I think that, I mean, it's super safe to stay in a hotel today with all the guidelines that we have in Santa Clara County. So I think that we need to let the public know and market that.
So I know your industry, the hospitality industry, is all about people and face-to-face and connections with other people. What do you see, or do you have any fear of the future in terms of, automation because of the COVID pandemic, some kind of automation where people will be replaced with other things? Because part of the it's hospitality, it's people. It's not people to machines. So what do you see the future?
Well, I mean, before March 2020, our union was already thinking about the reality. We're in Silicon Valley, the reality of artificial intelligence, taking over some of the jobs. I mean, and because that's part of daily life. I mean, however, I mean, we've been trying and we've continued pushing for a voice at the table that if you're going to change the work of a person, I mean, let's go ahead and try to train that person. I mean, because these changes have been historically the commonality in any industry. Industry changes, and we're in Silicon Valley. We're going to see those phases, but we have to be always recognizing the human side of things and the human impact. I mean, once you forget the human impact on technology or in the life of a person or any other things in life, I mean, then we're doing a disservice to our community. So yes, I mean, we're going to be talking with the industry. I mean, we're going to be seeing that in the stadiums. Right. We're going to be seeing that in hotels. But I mean, I think that there is a way to do it in a sensitive way, looking at the future of the person and enhancing the knowledge of that person too.
Well, thank you. I think that's a good headway into what we've done in Santa Clara, because when you talk about changes, there's been a lot of changes in the convention center and the stadium in terms of workers, different hotel ownerships, and as things have changed hands, as recommended by you and others, the city enacted a worker retention ordinance, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, and how it's helped. And I know that some of your workers have told us that it has helped them.
It truly helped hundreds of workers in Santa Clara. I can tell you the companies, NVIDIA, the convention center, the 49ers Stadium. I mean, those companies already in the 5 years changed the subcontractors and the employers. And the fact that those workers, I'll give you an example, in the convention center, the fact that we have workers there that have been there for 20, 30 years, and the fact that they don't have to worry about a new company not hiring them, it's just like a peace of mind that allows the workers to produce more too, and take responsibility and take ownership for the convention center, in this case, or the stadium. So, I mean, the vision of this council has been amazing, and I thank you all, including you, for looking at the human side of things and caring about people, not only in the evolution of the city or an industry and all that. So it has really made a difference in hundreds of people's lives.
Well,
Lisa.
it helps the city as well, very much, because when you have a worker who's been there 20, 25 years, however long, at the convention center, or shorter time at the stadium or hotels and other places, they know their job. They know the facilities. They know the people. People get to know them as well. So it's such a huge benefit to us as well. And now we, because of the pandemic, have brought forward from you a worker recall ordinance. So tell us a little bit about that. It's an emergency ordinance. It hasn't been passed yet. I think it's on our next agenda next Tuesday.
Yes, it is. It is. Yes. And this is another effort to work with the council on an issue that is imminent. I mean, there are industries that are not going to come back right away. And we want to just let the workers know that the employers are going to be waiting for you when the business comes back, and you'll have your position there. The convention center is another example. I mean, we know that we're not going to have conventions until maybe 8, 9 months down the road, hopefully. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
We hope so.
I mean, we need to work on the confidence of the customers to make that convention. But those workers being professionals in what they do. We're talking about bartenders, servers, cooks. So, I mean, they should be able to say, okay, I'm going to try to weather the storm. The city of Santa Clara has my back, and we're going to be able to go back to work in the same place. And I know there's going to be changes. I mean, the industry might change, but at least it's going to be a position waiting for me.
So they don't have to compete for their own jobs, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And we avoid all the things that we know that happen in the real world, companies trying to maybe hire less younger people or things like that, let's face it, it happens. But I mean, we need to be prepared to confront that.
Right, and I think just protecting them. So I'm crossing my fingers that we're going to move on this for next Tuesday.
Yes,
But these are things I think that because we are the type of city we are and we're a little bit forward thinking about certain things, that we can act a little quicker to help people, because that's been the focus through our whole pandemic, to try to help as much as we can through the food programs, the utility bill credits, the garbage credits, whatever we can do to help people, the small business loans and other things. We're constantly trying to find ways, because that is our number one priority. We have to get people through this because we need our community to stick together, and because we are a middle-sized city with big city assets, we still have that small town heart. Oh, I shouldn't do that on the microphone. Sorry, everybody out there. We still have a heart for the people that have made this city great, because it is the workers.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, no, and that vision goes back way before us, Lisa,
Yes,
in Santa Clara. I mean, the base of the city, the vision of the utility company and all that stuff. I mean, those are unique things. I mean, this is a very unique city in Silicon Valley, and it's unique because, how, government officials made it unique. I mean, that's the truth. So, and those partnerships through the years that allow everybody to have a voice in Santa Clara, and that's the key, working together. I mean, and that's how we're going to come out of this pandemic. I mean, working together. I mean, there's no other way.
Oh, I agree. Okay, so let's see. Do we have any questions or comments from Facebook? Okay, from Larry. Why are the Halloween safety guidelines, what are the Halloween safety guidelines? Why are the Halloween safety guidelines for practicing social distancing? Larry, we're going to talk about that next Friday. So please tune in next Friday, and we're going to talk about what the county orders are for Halloween, and it'll be the day before Halloween, so you'll have plenty of time to plan for it. All right, Sarah M. In addition to staycations, hotels are being used to house people who were evacuated by the fires. That can continue to be a dynamic in the coming years. Yeah, what do you say to that, Enrique?
Yeah, no, that is true. There is all opportunities that by bringing business to the hotels, we help the community too. So no, that's something that everybody's working in the industry.
All right, we have a comment from Nancy B. Love Enrique. He has been fighting for working families and social justice for decades. Thank you, Enrique, a true warrior for working families and social justice for years. Your perspective is so important.
Well,
yes.
Thank you. I mean, but it has been a partnership.
Well,
so
and I think we'll learn about you. If people don't know already, you're a very humble person, and he's been a great leader for his organization, but he's always you've always been very humble and always collaborative with us here in the city, and we really
I think in Unite here, we
that.
all believe in that. I think that we are part of the community, and we're going to continue being like that as a union.
Right, because we're all in it together.
Yep, we're all in it together.
All right, Sarah M. Mayor Gilmore, thank you for lifting up our members who shared their pain and suffering during the council meetings. That really touched me, because we all talk about big things around here all the time, but when you hear one-on-one from someone who has lost their job or was able to keep their job because of the retention, lost their job, trying to feed their families. And I know you have in your workforce, there's a lot of women, single women with families, right? A lot. And just the struggle of trying to raise your family, get to your job, make sure your children are taken care of. Because we talked about that during coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
what about the child care and all that?
I mean, it's just really amazing. The child care is something that, I mean, last week, room attendants are working together so they can start working, and one of them taking care of the kids. I mean, it's just really amazing.
And they have to help each other,
the collaboration, they have to help each other, and that's what community is all about, being together, right?
Right. So we have, was it Sarah? I can't read that. Sarah J. Love seeing Enrique from Unite Here Local 19.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Woo.
That's great.
Thanks, Sarah. You have another fan there. Flora D. What an incredible leader. Thank you for your insight, Enrique. Oh.
Wow.
Okay, Samuel R. Unite Here is awesome. Yes. POC are being hit hard. POC are being, people, I'm sorry.
People of color.
From Sarah M. My eyes from the lights, I'm sorry. People of color are being hit hardest by health and economic impacts of COVID. Recall means more equitable recovery. I think we agree with that, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what we need to just like create the avenue to everybody to recovery, and that's part of it.
So everyone has an equal opportunity
Correct.
to get back. And you would think it's a no-brainer, right? You have seniority, you're there, you've spent all this time.
Exactly, but it's not something that happens like that. I mean, it's just like you had to just really put it on the table and discuss it, because I mean, I know that I believe in the industry. I believe the majority of the industry will do the right thing, but we need to be sure.
Well, this protects the ones that, that work for companies that aren't doing the right thing.
Exactly.
So again, you think it's a no-brainer, but there are people out there that may take advantage of this and not be, recall the workers.
Correct.
Okay, so I think we're coming to the end here, but Enrique, I want to really talk to you about the message that we leave our audience going forward. I know you are a positive and glass half full person, right? At least you told me that, right? No, you really, really are.
I am. I believe in people.
Yeah, you will believe in people.
Yeah, and I think that what's important is to recognize that we have been working together in many different ways for years, and we're going to come out of this pandemic together too, and we have an advantage in Santa Clara, and I said it already, and that feeling as Santa Clarans that we have, that the council have our backs. It's important as workers, as community members. And so we need to really look for the glass half full, and it is, we have such a wonderful future in Santa Clara. When I look at that area around the 49 stadiums and what you guys are doing in downtown, it's just amazing. And that's part of the vision that didn't start 2 years ago. We started years and years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, this is going to continue evolving. And the evolution is for the good of everybody, and that's as long as that we have that going in a city. I think that we taking care of those that need the most. I mean, for example, in my case, I advocate for low-wage workers that are going to be challenged with the healthcare. So I'm going to come and say to the council here and in other cities. I mean, we need to work together so we force Washington to bring money for healthcare.
Right.
I mean, it's not only about unemployment, it's about creating a safety net for workers that when you are low-wage workers, you don't have. So we're going to come out of this stronger. I have no idea, because it's not going to stop us from doing what we're doing best in Santa Clara, or what you're doing best in Santa Clara, which is to, taking care of people. And that's what we do.
Thank you, because I know there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I do believe we're going to come back stronger. Because of the planning we've made up to this point. This won't happen overnight, but we have set the base, going back decades.
Exactly.
We've set the base for what's going to happen in our uptown, north of Bayshore, and even in our downtown.
Exactly.
In downtown Santa Clara. We have it all covered in terms of, setting the future ahead. And it does look bright. We just have this little time period right now that we need to get through. We need to protect our workers so they can, pay their bills and feed their families, and pay everything that needs to get done. We need to help as a city, and we're trying to do the best we can with what resources we have. But if we didn't have partners like you, we wouldn't be able to get through this as well, because we can't do this on our own. So.
Yeah, no, and you've seen our members. I mean, the union. We are fortunate in our union to have, a group of members that are willing to volunteer and be part of the community that we're supposed to be helping each other. So we're fortunate to be in Santa Clara, and I know we're going to come out this stronger because we had the base.
Right. Thank you, Enrique. Thank you so much for joining me today, and everyone out there.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all the time we have for Mayor at Noon. Join us on Facebook Live next Friday at noon with Lisa Schoenthal, Santa Clara's Chief Emergency Services Officer, to give us an update on the county's new and rapidly changing health orders and discuss how to celebrate Halloween safely. Thank you for watching, and remember, Santa Clara has it covered.